what it is. Gentlemen, we have a video that everybody probably gives a massive fucking shit about. Kings and Generals, how Ukraine won the first phase of the war. Modern Warfare documentary. 33 minutes long. As Montana Black would say, we're getting into the reaction here. Deep content. Let me just update the sub count. Becoming a reaction, Andy, today. Sorry, this is no shit against the developer of the FBI mod. I think it's a great mod. I just, you know. Alright, I'm head out. See you later, Kagawa, you piece of shit tryhard in Battle for Middle-earth. I know who you are. Good job with Rundo in the end. Let's get into it. How Ukraine won the first phase of the war. Trigger warning for a bunch of indoctrinated propaganda victim Russians. Let's fucking go. Isn't it crazy how fast life goes by though, man? You guys remember when the war started and you had this feeling of, whoa, shit, Alter, there's war in Europe? What the fuck? And now it's like normal. Like no one cares anymore. That's just how humans are. You don't doom scroll anymore. You still pay attention to what's happening. But we Westerners care much less now because it's just how it goes, right? How the brain works. At some point, the brain get used to it. And back then, I remember everyone I thought Ukraine is going to get shit on. And it's ridiculous how Ukraine has been holding on. I think the Ukrainians are giga chat motherfucking legends. I think all the people on this planet that are like, Ukraine has to stop the provocations, just surrender, are the enemy of democratic Western free thinking. On you, Ali Schwarzer, and whatever that other guy is called that makes the podcast with Markus Lanz. And shout out to all Ukrainians, man. You guys will go down as legends in fucking history. Even if you lose at this point, man. You guys are the real life Spartans, man. Good thing you're doing there. Let's get into it. It's going to be probably... Modern Warfare is probably a lot about being entrenched and use javelins.
With our content and not cash in on the ongoing conflicts. So instead of spamming your timelines with hot takes constantly, we decided to take our time and summarize the continuing Russian invasion of Ukraine with monthly videos. This conflict will enter history as pivotal, both historically and in terms of military science. So we'll have more to say over the next while. For now, allow us to present you our video on the first phase of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And with a look at the war's beginning, we can also recommend a celebration of a war coming to an end, brought to you by our sponsor Magellan TV. This documentary streaming service...
Magellan TV? Never heard of that before. A documentary stream service. You can't do that on Twitch, but I would like, as I get older and become more washed up, I would like to watch documentaries with you guys. It would be great if one day Twitch actually gets rights with certain apps like Magellan TV, and we could watch documentaries together, man.
Founded by filmmakers, presents Tony Robinson's VE Day, Minute by Minute. An in-depth look at a single day, the day the war in the European theater.
They probably had a very good time when the war was over, man. People were probably really happy.
And veterans together to tell the story of a momentous 24-hour period that changed the modern world. There's much more to see on Magellan TV too. They have the richest and most varied history content available anywhere, covering everything from the ancient to modern eras, wars, biographies, and the Earth itself. Plus, as well as history content, they also give you extensive collections
animal
of science,
documentaries. I could watch them all day, man. They are so soothing.
They add 15
should you meditate 1 hour or watch a nature documentary with 1 hour, man? I feel like the nature documentary calms me down much more.
It's all viewable anytime, anywhere, on televisions,
wonder how much they pay him for
mobile
that.
devices,
I guess
more. Get access to
3,500 nice 5-digit number.
Ad-free documentaries
Fully
for
deserved
$4.99 a month, and get a month for free by subscribing to Magellan TV via our link in the description.
Documentary Wednesday on the stream? Oh, here we go.
In October 2021, the Russian army started a build-up on the Russia-Ukraine and Belarus-Ukraine borders. The Kremlin explained it with planned military exercises. Brushing aside all...
According to stuff that you hear, you never know what the truth is, right? That a lot of the Russian soldiers in these exercises actually never knew that they're actually going to see real combat, man.
...concerns, and declaring that they had a right to move their forces wherever they deemed necessary within their borders.
They're already the West should have started sanctioning, man. But we're so sucking on that Kopkin gas hand.
Asserting that the massing of Russian troops on the Ukrainian border was a build-up for an impending invasion of Ukraine. The Russian government vehemently denied this, while
is
some
the first thing
NATO
getting lost in the war.
and Ukraine considered the US reports exaggerated. Nevertheless, by December, Russia started making demands for NATO to guarantee that Ukraine would never join the organization, that the alliance would withdraw its forces from countries that joined the alliance after 1997, that
How offensive is that? You're telling NATO to withdraw forces from NATO members?
NATO would stop its expansion.
If this was a role-playing game, man, everybody would I would just be in this group like, fuck off, let's have war.
That NATO would
well, that's
seek
kind of what
agreement
happened, huh?
with Russia for any activities in Ukraine, Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and Central Asia. Naturally, the United States and its allies rejected these proposals. Despite the
Makes
Russian
sense.
assurances and attempts of Western leaders like French President Emmanuel Macron to find common ground, the tensions
I have a theory about this table, right? Everybody is memeing about this table and stuff. You know why I think this table is a thing? Putin does not want outsiders to be close to him because they could see his deteriorating health. He doesn't want you to see makeup, shaking, and other stuff. That's my
continued growing.
idea.
On the 17th of February, forces of the unrecognized Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics and Ukraine accused each other of shelling. Unrecognized governments of Donetsk and Luhansk ordered the evacuation of their populations.
That is stupid, Tommy, not gonna
On
lie.
the 21st of February 2022, the Russian President Vladimir Putin made a threatening speech, questioning Ukrainian statehood and calling it a Bolshevik-created entity. On the same day, Russia became the first country to recognize the so-called Donetsk People's Republic and Luhansk People's Republic, justifying this step by claiming that a genocide had been committed by the Ukrainian government and neo-Nazi groups against Russian-speaking people in Donbass. In the early morning of the 24th of February, Putin
Making up his own
announced
shit like the
start of
Nazis did back in the
special
day.
military operation to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine. A
Back then,
military
they actually
conflict
probably
in
thought they
Ukraine,
will take
which
Ukraine in 3
started
days or some shit.
2014, turned into a full-scale war with Russia's invasion. According to different estimates, Russia deployed 150,000 to 200,000 troops out of total active personnel of approximately 900,000, along with up to 40,000 separatists from Donetsk and Luhansk.
Russia only has 900,000 troops active? Yeah, I thought it would have been more.
Later joined by a few thousand troops from Syria and separatist republics of Abkhazia and Ossetia. It is safe to assume that most of the best Russian troops were deployed to Ukraine. At the same time, the rest of the active personnel were mostly conscripts stationed throughout vast Russia. The Russian army divides into battalion tactical groups, BTG, which are autonomous military units consisting of infantry, armored and
What does autonomous military unit mean? Like they go in without any organization on a higher level? Like they just feel like, I take this city, I take this bridge. And no one tells them what to do? That seems rather awkward.
unarmored military vehicles, artillery,
And
field
unorganized?
hospitals, and so on.
Like Lanius's
According to the
cohort.
latest pre-invasion figures provided by the official US sources, Russia amassed approximately 120 BTGs on the border with Ukraine. BTGs usually have 600 to 1,000 infantrymen, and are supposed to have 10 tanks and between 40 and 70 other armored vehicles. This allows us to estimate that 1,200 tanks and 4,800 to 8,400 other armored vehicles are being used in the Russian expeditionary
Means they don't have to
force
wait for command
if
to
all
do things, so they
BTGs
move and
are
attack
equipped
faster.
by the book, which is rarely the case, especially in an army known for vast corruption and poor administration.
That's why they're fucking not connected to the commanding staff, because they're all fucking idiots. So you don't have to be careful who's stealing the fucking washing machines.
According to the ISS military balance, Russia possesses 1,391 military aircraft and 544 attack helicopters, but it is impossible to know how many of them Russia is exactly using in the war in Ukraine.
That's impossible.
The same source shows that Ukraine has active personnel of approximately 200,000 troops, more than 3,000 armored vehicles, 132 military aircraft, and
I would have never thought
55
Ukraine is this strong,
helicopters.
man.
Since Ukraine has declared general mobilization and armed volunteer territorial defense, we could assume the actual number of people resisting the invasion is
The foreign legions, the militias, the people getting
way
drafted.
higher. Moreover, thousands of volunteers joined Ukraine's International Brigade. While talking about the comparison of forces, it is necessary to note that the Ukrainian army has come a long way since 2014. The army has been significantly...
Makes mad sense to be prepared, right? If Russia's your neighbor and you see what they're doing, like with Crimea and stuff, you gotta fucking prepare yourself. Officials now say 700,000 troops employed. Does anyone know numbers how many Foreign Legion is in Ukraine? I would be guessing 10k? That's what 20 to 30k? Wow, that's sick. 20k? And Foreign Legion is really good, right? These people are trained. It's like retired Navy SEALs, retired military all around the world and stuff. You know, people that want to go to war, but they don't have a war in their country, so they go over there. But all the glory to them, and they're helping the cause to take down the orcs.
Arsenal is much better, as the United States, United Kingdom, Turkey, and others have provided Ukraine with anti-tank weapons like NLAW and Javelin, anti-aircraft missile systems such as Stinger, along with TB2 Bayraktar drones. The Russian offensive started with a massive shelling and airstrike campaign throughout Ukraine.
You guys remember that day, man? You were just sitting at home and you're like scrolling and like, fuck, man. And you would think, like as a Hoi4 player, that they will take over in a second, man, right? But fuck, man, the Ukrainians stood vigilant. And I'm a big Ukraine simp, you can call me that. A great example of how a country should act when it gets unjustifiedly and against human accords and against how to say in English, Völkerrecht, the laws of, how do you say Völkerrecht? I don't know. You know what I mean? Showing that to not give up, to not fucking be a pussy ass bitch, and to fight true evil in the face of you.
With more than
international
100
law?
missile strikes to destroy the Ukrainian military infrastructure, bases, anti-aircraft missile systems, and arms depots. The later events demonstrated that Russia failed to achieve its goal, as the Ukrainian military infrastructure, albeit heavily damaged, managed to mostly stay intact. This was followed by a ground offensive in 4 general directions. The northern offensive by the Russian troops deployed in Belarus towards the capital, Kyiv. You
guys remember the news? You already forget that? When they were shelling Chernobyl? When there was gunfighting at Chernobyl, Alter?
Offensive from Belgorod towards Kharkiv.
Like a fucking TV show, man.
The Donbass southeastern offensive from the territories controlled by pro-Russian separatists and Voronezh.
All the people thinking, I thought Putin wouldn't attack either, man. But once again, that just showed everybody needs to shut the fuck up. No one is an expert. Nobody knows anything. Not even real experts like the CIA. They also had some wrong information. Nobody knows shit. Everybody just talks. Thank you, 9 hello.
Towards the Ukrainian-controlled territories of the Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, and the southern offensive from Crimea towards Kherson, Mykolaiv, and ultimately Odessa.
They even entrenched into radioactive ground.
The Russian strategy was to rapidly advance towards major urban centers, taking large cities like Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Odessa as soon as possible to break the morale and resolve of the Ukrainians and force the government to...
I feel bad for the Russian soldiers being killed too. Putin is fucking his own people just as bad as his enemies. Fully agree. Yes, war is always a piece of shit, man. What is war? War is just mostly, let's be fucking real. But what about Katarina? Shut up. It's mostly men with big egos sending young men to die. These young men just want to make money. They are indoctrinated. They're propagandized. They think they fight for a good cause. It's just, if you really, it comes down to it, man. If you've seen war, you know what it is. It's just bullshit, man. It's just a bunch of powerful people trying to jerk off on the planet, man. It's so unnecessary. Obviously, feel bad for the general Russian soldier. If you come from a poor background and you gotta join the military and then this shit happens to you, still that doesn't justify war crimes and stuff like that. When even if you should have feelings for these soldiers and what they have to go through on both sides, that never ever justifies certain behavior. And if you show behavior like this, you're without a doubt, without any debate open, an enemy of the human race. And the Western world, the free world, shall do anything in their power to get you, to prosecute you, and to get you to justice, man. And when you see what happened in Ukraine, and there's official advisors and official investigators from the United Nations now in Ukraine already stating that there has been several proof of legit war crimes and it's not just bullshit, then that is a massive fucking issue, and there's no excuse for that. No excuse. And when I see you guys, I don't know where you guys live, but you also have in your country like celebrities that talk shit about Ukraine. Like in Germany, there's like these really weird celebrities like Alice Schwarzer. She's like some old woman nobody knows, and she's like, "Stop defending yourself, Ukraine." Like, and you read that in the paper, like, what? Like, why are we even printing this, man? Like, who is this person? Like, what? And it's just. You know what? I feel like the Ukraine war has been a great tool to expose people in the Western world that are fucking pure evil cunts, man. Thank you, Joel. Some people have shown their true faces, man.
Capitulate, along with ensuring the land connection between the separatist-ruled part of Donbass and Crimea, and securing the whole Black Sea shore of Ukraine.
Especially politicians that are now leading countries like Germany.
After securing advance.
To all my German brothers, Jan Böhmermann's latest episode 2 weeks ago, he was kind of proving a bit, looking into how the current leading party of Germany, the SPD, has deep, deep ties to Russia, man. Which is, I mean, look just at Gerhard Schröder, former German president, former chancellor, a little puppet of Putin, doesn't want to apologize, doesn't want to stand back from his offices, for example, at Gazprom. Ridiculous, the biggest shame of Germany since the end of World War II, man. Thank you, Veritas. Like, where are we here? The SPD really like, oh, should we really help Ukraine? If we don't help Ukraine, we don't get elected anymore, man. But deep inside, if you really, there's a lot of proof. Just the Germans can check out that Bowman episode. A lot of proof that they have deep ties to this shit, man. Because they're all greedy, man. They like the Russian money, man. They like to make the money. That's why they sell off freedom and democracy, man. Saddest thing ever, man. Saddest thing ever. And I am a hardliner. I think the West should fight these people, sanction them even more. Can't fucking really sanction Russia because they have a veto right in the UN Council, right? They just veto every fucking real sanction. It's ridiculous, man. The West needs to wake the fuck up and start becoming a bit sturdy and a bit strong, man. Problem is that our representatives in the West are all greedy cunts that like corruption and foreign money a lot.
To make pincer and envelopment movements more possible.
And now the Ukrainians are paying the price for that.
The endgame of the Russian offensive still puzzles analysts, with claims ranging from installing a pro-Russian puppet government to dividing eastern Ukraine into several pro-Russian states. The Ukrainian defense strategy was an orderly withdrawal to urban centers while fighting advancing Russian forces, bogging them down in urban warfare, ambushing and attacking their supply lines. It would be illogical for the Ukrainian army to defend all the terrain along the whole of the massive front, given the Russian advantage in firepower. The analyst Michael Kaufman calls this tactic trading space for time. On the first day of the invasion, Russia made the most significant advance on the southern front,
Russian
where
warship.
the 58th Combined Arms Army, CAA, advanced for about 60 kilometers, pushing the Ukrainian 57th Motorized Brigade back.
The West is more united than ever now, yeah.
The North Crimean Canal, and reaching the...
Like, whatever happens at the end of Ukraine, right? Big mistakes by Mr. Putin, man. Like, you know the movie Watchmen, where Dr. Manhattan says the world can only be united if it has the same enemy? And Vladimir Putin gave us that. And we have to be very thankful for that.
Outskirts of Kherson. On the northern front, the 35th CAA took Chernobyl and the Chernobyl power plant, while the 36th CAA pushed towards the capital Kyiv, bypassing Chernihiv. The Ukrainian 1st Tank Brigade managed to halt the Russian advance, as it failed to capture the city of Chernihiv. The 41st CAA's advance towards Kyiv from Sumy was also halted in the outskirts of Sumy by the 56th Motorized Brigade. The Russian airborne attack on the Hostomel airport near Kyiv by the elite 31st Guards Air Assault
That's where Bucha is. That's interesting. That's where the Bucha massacre happened.
Brigade of the Russian VDV, Elite Airborne Army, also failed after a Ukrainian counterattack. The rapid capture of Kharkiv did not happen either, as the 1st Guards Tank Army could not break the resistance of...
I am at the moment 12 kilometers away from Bucha. Is that true? I don't know if you're speaking the truth, but that is insane, dude. That's fucking insane.
The Ukrainian 92nd Mechanized Brigade. The advance of the Luhansk militia and the Russian 20th CAA towards Severodonetsk met the resistance of the Ukrainian 53rd Brigade, with heavy fighting around the town of Shtestia. Elements of the 8th CAA and the Donetsk militia pushed the 54th Mechanized Brigade towards the northwest from the Ukrainian DNR line of contact, and the 56th Motorized Brigade towards the east.
Mariupol has been held until today, right? Today the steel plant gave up or something?
But failed to reach its overall goals.
They have been evacuated or some shit?
The rest of Donetsk Oblast and breaking
but they held
the
their fucking ground, man.
On the 25th of February, heavy fighting on all fronts continued. The Russian troops forced their way into Oblon, a mere 9 kilometers away from the Ukrainian Parliament building. The 95th Air Assault Brigade.
What is it, dude? Only the wounded? No, only they surrendered today. No, they left today. Also not. Look at chat. Everybody's something else, man.
And the 72nd Mechanized Brigade were there to protect Kyiv. At this point, the United States even offered Ukrainian President Zelensky a chance to leave the capital.
I don't need a plane, I need weapons. Replied, what a fucking mad lad, dude. That is the fucking people we need on this planet, man. The people that would rather die than giving into tyranny, dude. That guy will be a fucking immortal legend, man. Dude, if you just sit down and research this guy, a comedian who was at Dancing with the Stars in Ukraine, who was in a TV show where he tried to join the EU, a guy that no one will think will win the election, right? Turning into one of the greatest leaders that I've seen in my lifetime. There for his people in their darkest hour, man. Unbelievable, man. Bro, I'm not saying he's a 100% great guy, but what the fuck this man has been doing in the last 2 months is a lot of fucking Western people. If they would just have 10% of his balls, the world would be a much better world, man.
The fight is here. I need ammunition, not a ride.
He also played the president in a TV show.
The threat to the capital was real, as during his speech to the nation, he called for the Ukrainians to brace for an offensive and urged them to prepare for a hard battle for Kyiv. Zelensky's
they probably tried very hard to assassinate him, man. Every day that guy was probably thinking, any moment now, man, I could get hit, man.
The symbol of the Ukrainian resistance, further mobilizing
Grisha's mom is addicted to coke. Well, a lot of Russians are very, very blinded by their internal propaganda. It's not their fault.
On Russia, such as disconnecting several major Russian banks from SWIFT. But the situation continued to be difficult for the Ukrainians. American intelligence predicted that the fall of Kyiv would happen within 96 hours. Even though the Russians failed to capture...
As a US information is just top-notch, huh? The fuck is the CIA doing nowadays? All the good agents are now drug dealers in South America, so they only have fucking Bob left. I think they're gonna attack,
There,
the fuck's going on?
On the southern front, the Russians developed their success by capturing Novokhovka and moving closer to securing Kherson at Melitopol. Taking Melitopol was essential to continue the march along the Black Sea shore, to merge with Russian and separatist units trying to take Mariupol, along with advancing towards Zaporizhia, which could have encircled the Ukrainian units fighting on the Donbass front. In Kharkiv and Donbass, the situation remained more or less stable, and there were even reports of...
It seems so fucking unreal, right? That it's 2022, and this is real life, man. Just still very, very crazy to think about.
Counter-offensives pushing back the Russian units to the border in Milove.
And all because of one man,
was also the day when the defenders of Zminy Island, south of Odessa, famously responded to a Russian demand of surrender. Fuck off, Russian military ship. On February 26th, the Russian army mostly used special forces and airborne troops to fight the Ukrainian defense in Kyiv, with the 36th CAA giving up on the rapid capture of Chernihiv and bypassing it to move...
Dude, Facebook, Twitter, McDonald's pulling out of Russia is good for Russia. Facebook, Twitter, McDonald's, it makes the children fat, it makes the children dumb. TikTok, dude, it's actually kind of good that that's gone. Like, this is the worst thing for society, bro. The children are just all fucking retarded.
Move towards the capital.
Doing TikTok dances. Imagine you have 2 generations of TikTok dances, and then you invade that country. They're going to be like, oh!
It looks like other Russian units around...
They should have boosted TikTok in Russia. That's what they should have done.
Arrival to strike Kyiv with massive force. Similarly unable to take the city of Kharkiv with a direct assault, the 1st Guards Tank Army divided into 2 groups to bypass the city. This
makes me feel like there's going to be a Steel Division add-on for this soon.
To possibly envelop the Ukrainian units in the city or move towards Kyiv. The situation in the southeastern Donbass front remained relatively stable as well. The Russian troops and separatist militia captured the port of Berdyansk and the Berdyansk airport. DPR separatists also claimed to capture Pavlopol and Pischevik, while LNR separatists also claimed to seize Loposkina and Makivka. Russia continued its advance on the southern front. The 42nd Guards Motor Rifle Division of the 58th CAA of the Russian army continued fighting in Kherson, while also sending units towards the city of Mykolaiv. Other elements of the 58th CAA were engaged in fighting to seize Melitopol, along with advancing towards Enerhodar and the Zaporizhian power plant in the north. Alexei Arestovich, the advisor to the Ukrainian president, admitted on February 27th that Ukraine lost control over the whole of Berdyansk. Prevailing in Kherson and Melitopol, capturing Henichesk and Kherson airport, meant that the Russian offensive on the southern front developed its success, increasing the threat on Mykolaiv and Odessa in the west and Mariupol in the east. The first reports
I had this really weird thought the other day with Lisa, where I felt it's just fantasizing. Okay, don't get into... But imagine there will be no nukes on Earth. What do you think will happen? Do you think the West will heavily go into this shit? Because I think we will. And they will have just in this scenario, don't fucking if there will. In this scenario, if Putin didn't have nukes, I think we'd be in there right the fuck now, man. We'd be in there right the fuck now, dude.
of the Russian army merging.
I mean, they can barely even beat Ukraine, man. If the whole of NATO wakes up, man, they're getting shit on
that day. But the continuing assault on Zaporizhia, namely on Enerhodar, Vasilivka and Tokmak, meant that the 58th CAA, the most successful unit of the Russian war effort so far, had to fight in three different directions, dividing its resources. On other fronts, the situation remained more or less stable, as Russia made small gains, such as the capture of Kupiansk and the encirclement of Konotop. But the 41st CAA's attack on Priluki and the 1st Guards Tank Army's attacks on Kharkiv and Oktyrka were repelled. By now, it had become clear that the strategy of causing collapse of the Ukrainian defense by rapid mass offensive on major Ukrainian cities...
Putin just pressed the attack button. He made the fucking battle line, pressed the attack button on level 3 attack mode, and it didn't work. I know that feeling, it sucks.
...had failed, as the Ukrainian army not only remained functional in the
cities, much defensive stats on these Ukrainians,
managed to harass Russian supply lines and inflict major losses on the Russian manpower and military vehicles. In response to the Western sanctions and failure to rapidly defeat the Ukrainian resistance, Putin ordered Russia's nuclear forces on high alert.
Like, dude, that alone is super bullshit, man. Like, what? 2022 and Mr. fucking Madman puts... Also, Leute, ey. Can't make this shit up, dude. Biggest threat to world security since Adolf Hitler, man.
The valiant defense of Ukraine caught the West by surprise, as contrary to almost unanimous expectation of the fall of Ukraine, the Ukrainian army remained a force capable of defending the country.
It's because Alex the Rambler is his advisor. My friend was in Kharkov. Russians actually were inside the city thinking they've taken it. I've heard that,
For the first time in history, the EU announced direct military aid to a foreign country, Ukraine, while Germany made a major turn in its foreign policy by sending weapons to Ukraine and stating its intention
100%
to dramatically increase its military spending. But Russia still possessed major resources.
This German buildup is going to take decades, man. The 100 billion will not be enough. It's in the news a lot in Germany lately. The German military is a joke, which has... it's obviously a big topic right after World War II. Obviously, the German military was shortened, smaller, and then the leadership, mostly on the CDU and SPD, was just so corrupted that they would always cut the funding for the military, man. And now nothing works in that military. And now we're waking up in Germany. Hey, there's actually still warmongers on this planet. How about we do something about that? And I don't understand. I don't understand Germans that say they are against it. I gotta say, I don't really get that argument. Like, I was with my grandpa yesterday. My grandpa isn't the most educated, and he said, no, we can't build up the German army again. 2 world wars. A 3rd one is gonna happen. Like, what? No. Dude, there's legit security threats to our way of life, the West. And the only thing Mr. Putin understands is power, man. Is military might. That guy is just lying all the time anyway. You can't take him serious. You gotta build up the German military again. Like, what other alternative is there, man? You just put down your pants and let Putin come in your ass? Like, what the fuck are you gonna do? And people thinking like the Third Reich is coming back. Like what? Like what? Beta ginger male. What's better about that? I'm kind of saying, isn't that what I'm saying? Alpha? Total Gaming 120? Just use Poland as a meat shield. Duh. No, man, it's time to forget the past. It's time to forget what happened 80 years ago. There's no more Nazis in Germany, mostly. It's time that the West comes together. And that is a big message to our Hungarian and Polish friends and anti-EUans, to the AfD voters, to the Le Pen voters, and to the Brexiteers, man. The West has to come together, man. That is our biggest strength. Yes, we have issues. Yes, you have a different opinion about the refugee crisis and all that fucking shit. But our biggest strength is, as a fact on paper, to work together as one. To forget all these old divides. It's the future, man. We're playing games together on the internet. It's time to come together, man, and stop vetoing each other and shitting on the EU because you don't like the gays and stuff. Like, we also corrupt politicians have to get their shit together. To me personally, the time of bullshit is over, man, and everybody has to get that, man. It's time to stop being dumb and understand what's important.
Sufficient to defeat Ukraine. On February 28th, satellite images of a 64-kilometer long...
And I'm telling you right here, right now, without a fucking doubt, Alhamdulillah on my grandpa's grave, if Finland, Poland, any of these brothers will ever be on attack, you will not see me on stream anymore. I will be the first in the fucking military office here getting into the reserve, man. And that has nothing to do with, look, I like the military, I like to shoot, man. It's because we're fucking brothers in Europe, man. Poles, Portuguese, Finns, man. We gotta work fucking together. And if Mr. Vladimir thinks he can go deeper than this shit, man, then we're gonna have a fucking problem. Then this unit is coming back. 100%, man.
Massive column of tanks, military vehicles, and artillery moving from Belarus towards the western part of Kyiv were shared on social media. Along with that, on the Kyiv front, elements of the 41st and 36th CAAs moved to bypass Sumy and Chernihiv.
Just wait 90 days for two spies to build the collab government.
East Kyiv. Presumably, the overall goal was to attack Kyiv from a number of directions, but the maintenance of a formidable force by Ukraine in Chernihiv and Sumy oblasts caused a major threat to the extended supply lines of the Russian army. Elements of the Ukrainian 1st Tank Army conducted defensive actions against the 41st and 36th CAAs, stalling the Russian advance in Nizhin. Along with maintaining a solid defense around Kyiv, the Ukrainian forces also engaged in pointed counterattacks, such as in Makariv and Borodyanka. In Donbass, heavy battles around Volnovakha, Starobilsk and Mariupol continued. In Kharkiv, Ukraine said
Turkey won't allow Finland and Sweden to NATO. That seems like a very childish comment. Erdogan literally said he will be open to talks if Sweden and Finland are open to declaring the PKK as a terrorist organization. So what you're saying is that they won't allow it is not true. Erdogan literally just said like 3 days ago or something, if they will be against the PKK, then we can talk about this shit. Once again, very sad that one veto can turn everything off, right? NATO system. In order to make someone join NATO, every single member nation has to vote yes. A single no destroys the whole process. So now Erdogan isn't stupid. He knows, oh, I have some leverage here, man. I have some power here. But Erdogan also knows he's getting a shit ton of money from the EU, man, and from the West. And he knows going on Putin's side is very, very unattractive, especially to countries so based on Western tourism. Makes sense to what he's doing. Makes sense what Erdogan is doing, man. Kind of fucking get it.
Set a defensive line.
Politics is all about always choosing the lesser evil.
Preventing the Russians from encircling Kharkiv and moving towards Poltava and Dnipro. Numerous reports of heavy shelling of civilian areas in Kyiv, Kharkiv, Mariupol, and
Turkey's
other
not
cities
even
of
Europe. Who the
Ukraine
fuck cares?
continued.
They're still part of the voting system in
the
NATO.
first death of a Russian general in the war was reported, as the deputy commander of the 41st CAA, Major General Andrei Sukhovetsky, was allegedly killed. On a diplomatic front, as expected, the first round of Russian-Ukrainian negotiations in Belarus did not bring
Turkey is the second largest military in NATO.
The first day of March brought several setbacks to the Ukrainian defense. Reports of capture of Kherson and Melitopol meant that now the 42nd Motor Rifle Division was free to move towards Mykolaiv. while other units of the 58th CAA engaged in Melitopol could join the attack on Mariupol from the west, making the encirclement of the city a real threat. Reports of the Belarusian army joining the Russian offensive were not confirmed.
Yeah,
on March
the little
2nd,
cuckold, the little
Western
puppet
intelligence sources
Lukashenko,
reported
man.
that Russia was switching
No
its
one is
military
deeper
tactic
into Putin's
from
ass than that
head-on
man.
offensive on cities to attritional war, wearing down the Ukrainian army by continued assault on its defensive lines
yes.
and shelling of Ukrainian cities to break the morale of the population, as the overall pace of their offensive remained well below expectations. Ukrainians report the reclaiming of Hlivka by the forces of the 96th Air Assault Brigade and Makariv by the defenders of the Kyiv perimeter. During the next few days, both sides claimed to take Irpin, Bucha and Hostomel, towns in the vicinity of Kyiv, the capture of which was crucial.
Like, as a German, it's so fucking insane. The mayor of Kiev is Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko is a huge celebrity in Germany, a massive boxing star. He will be in many TV shows. Everybody knows him, dude. And all of a sudden, wait, what? He's the mayor of Kiev? And he is fucking in a war? That was mind-blowing, man. He was a star in Germany. He still is, man. Everybody knows him. Very beloved guy. And I remember years ago how he was running for mayor of Kiev, and now he won the election, and now he has the duties, man, and he's doing it. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
For the success of the Russian campaign in Kyiv.
Defending fascism, bravo. Ufaka, what are you talking about? Can you explain that to us? He's defending fascism. Can you explain that? No, don't ban him. Don't ban him. I want to learn. Ufaka, I'm listening. How is he defending fascism? I want to get educated. 1.4k people, maybe you can explain it to us. You could change everyone's mind and you will have some pro-Russian people here. Let's see what he has to say.
It indicates that heavy fighting was going on around this area, but these reports also stipulated that the Russian attacks were mostly carried out by 1 or 2 BTGs at the same time, which was interpreted by military experts as an inability for the Russian army to carry out coordinated attacks by a large number of units. Another point of the...
Can you unban me from TommyKay's server? Panzer 0396. Nah. Ukrainian nationalists like Klitschko tend to glorify people who use a banderist ideology because they view the Nazi period as part of the struggle for Ukrainian independence against Moscow. Okay. Yes, I can. All the Western media is serving that Ukraine won the war and civilians are dying every day. I'm asking you what's... Ufaka, I'm asking you to explain what is fascist about Vladimir Klitschko, the mayor of Kiev. Or as on a greater scale, what is fascist about Ukraine right now? And you say, yes, I can. All the Western media is serving that Ukraine won the war and civil... how does that have anything to do with the fascism? Try a second time. Please explain to us what's so fascist about Ukraine. And if you want to tell me that 0.2% of the Ukrainian military, the Azov regiment, actually is using fascist symbols, then I don't think that a very small group of that army should lead that the whole country is full of fascists. Yes, I can. Wait, I will. Okay, we're waiting. Sure.
The Russian offensive in the Kyiv.
One would think having no elections in Russia anymore is fascist. One would think that against international law invading a country without justification is kind of fascist. One would think poisoning and taking down opposition is kind of fascist. What the fuck do I know, Kafka, though? You're gonna probably explain it to me. You're probably gonna explain it to me, man.
But the attempts to push back the Ukrainian army there by the 41st and 36th CAAs were repelled. Within the next several days, these unsuccessful attacks would continue.
Sorry, what? Been a while since I've been able to catch a stream. Can't believe it's 8 months. Thank you, Dozer, man. Thank you.
On other fronts, Russia took Balaklia, repelled the Ukrainian counterattack on Holivka, and engaged in heavy battle to take the Mykolaiv airport on March 3rd. But possibly the biggest gain of the Russian army on this day was the capture of Svatovo, which is situated between Kharkiv and Luhansk by the 6th CAA and by the Luhansk militia. This allowed the Russian eastern and southeastern axes to link.
There are nationalists in every army, but the difference is that in Ukrainian army they're more glorified and mainstream. But even if you're right, is that a justification to invade an entire country and doing the Bucha genocide, killing civilians, breaking every international law in the book? Because certain groups in the Ukrainian army have certain symbols on there? Is that a good justification? Yeah. Because that will... Man. That means everyone has war goals now, and everyone.
The result of the second round of negotiations was the agreement to open corridors for civilians stuck in encircled cities like Sumy, Chernihiv, and Mariupol.
Yeah, doesn't Russia have the so-called Wagner group? So now we're all allowed to invade Russia because they have a hardcore Nazi in the Wagner group? Like, that whole logic just doesn't get close to me, I feel like.
To 6th of March, Russia made important gains on several fronts. In the south, the 58th CAA took Enerhodar and the power plant in the vicinity, along with Tokmak and Vasilivka. There were also reports of successful Russian advances on the Mykolaiv airport and heavy fighting in the Mykolaiv Oblast, which was defended by the 57th Motorized Brigade. Along with that, the 6th CAA and Luhansk separatist forces started attacking Izium and Severodonetsk. The fall of these cities could have been disastrous for Ukraine, as it could have possibly allowed the Russian units to encircle the 56th Motorized Brigade and other Ukrainian
Dude, I'm really rooting for the good guys here, man. I'm really rooting for them.
Was reported along the Chuhuiv-Balaklia line, which the Ukrainian defense managed to withstand. They were not as successful at the Nezhin-Preluki line, as the Russians were able to penetrate it, pushing within 20 kilometers of central Kyiv from the northeast. The Russians also managed to encircle Oktirka. On March 7th...
Like, I'm legit scared that one day you open the news and Ukraine is done. Ukraine capitulated and has been beaten, man. How scary will that be, man? How scary will that be, dude? Then that will really be the opening door into decades of a new Cold War, man. Thank you, Chopper. Not really scary? To me, that's scary. To me, that's very scary, man. Don't know about you. Will never happen? You never know what happens. None of you knows anything. I don't know anything. You guys always talk in absolutes. You guys are like Sif. You guys always talk in absolutes.
Ukraine managed to reclaim the Mykolaiv airport and Chuhuiv. The massive tank column in the west of Kyiv.
And in a way, here's something I want to say. The Ukrainian army is paying for Western greed. We can't, like, Germany can't sanction Russia right now because we need their gas and oil. We have been so dependent on this unhumane government because we wanted cheap money, cheap gas, everything cheap. And now these people are dying for Western greed, man. We should be all fucking ashamed, dude. And you see Germans running around, oh, the oil price is too high. Oh, nee, Alter. Oh, nee. People fucking die in this shit for decades, man. People fighting for their lives. Their relatives getting shot in the back. But you sit at home like, oh, fuck, 10 cents more? Oh, no, man. How low have we gotten, man? As I always say, the human race isn't as far as we think, man. There are still so many Muppets around that can't count to 10. It's very, very scary to me. It scares me a bit. Thank you, Klongaldi and Chopper, my dudes.
Still threatened
it's very, very scary.
No significant fighting or movement in that direction was reported. This was also the day when the first international volunteers...
Like, you know what's more scary to me than this war and the killing and everything? It's people in the West defending this. Like you're like, whoa, holy shit, where have you guys all come from? Holy crap, you're like, wow, what the fuck?
Joined the defense of Kyiv. In the south, Russia repeated its tactic of bypassing the cities, which it failed to take with a head-on assault, as the 7th Guards
Mountain Air Assault Division
bypassed Mykolaiv towards Voznesensk. The aim was to force the southern Burg River and advance on strategically crucial Odessa. On March 8th, Russia took steps to solidify its encirclement of Mariupol by capturing the highway between the city and Volnovakha.
No, Germany is still dependent on Russian gas and oil.
Elements of the 41st CAA to the...
They estimated the German taxpayer is giving 250,000 euros tax-free to Vladimir Putin's government every minute. 250k. He didn't reply. What did he say? Where is he? So you should listen to professors all over American universities and not only what internet is showing. Because one time you listen to pro-Western, it will automatically show only pro-Western. So NATO, which is so-called peacemakers, we're bombarding civilians in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Serbia, and Syria. Plus, the Treaty of I Can't Recall says that NATO will not cross borders and they're putting rockets on border of Russia. Okay, so they're not crossing borders because they're making defense systems against an obviously very aggressive country. You're stating something about American professors? You sound like a Facebook mom that doesn't want to wear a mask? Like, what? Can you name these professors?
Let's get this bread.
If you can name one, I will research them right now, live on stream. Thank you, Cool Crap. Like, who are these professors you're listening to? And also, the whataboutism is a very, very uneducated thing. The US did very bad things in the Middle East. Yes, they fucking did. 100%. Yes. But that's a reason you can fucking commit suicide in eastern Ukraine? Is that the logic? Like, huh?
Sumy Oblast to strengthen its extended and constant
They did in the next door. Let's not even go there, man. It's not worth it.
On the 9th to the 12th, the Ukrainian 1st Tank Division managed to repel the Russian offensive by the 90th Tank Division and the 55th Motorized Rifle Brigade on Chernihiv, along with establishing a connection with the pocket of resistance in Nizhyn. Heavy battles continued in Izium and Severodonetsk. Russian offensives on Brovary by the 6th
Some people in the US care more about the Johnny Depp trial than the war going on. That's just human behavior. Humans always care about what's close to them. You know, all the refugees coming from Arabia to nobody you know, the Germans are like, oh no, they look different, we don't like them, fucking Arabs. But now the white Ukrainians come and everybody fucking welcomes them. And that's obviously not cool, but it's also human behavior. You always care if it's close to you. If 200 people get shot right now in fucking Zimbabwe, you're not gonna bat an eye. But 200 people get shot in Paris, you're like, whoa, oh shit, oh whoa. That's humans, man, you know? So he sent us this. Understanding the Russian response. Okay, this is what Ufka is sending us, and he's pro-Russian. Let's check it out. He is giving me this timestamp.
Ukraine. There are many people who say the Russians are going to go on a rampage. They're going to try and reestablish the Soviet Union or a greater Russia, and so forth and so on. That's not going to happen. Putin is much too smart for that. You remember what happened?
Objection, hearsay. Okay, that's just hearsay. Where's your empirical data about that so far? This is from 2015, by the way. Oh, 2015, nice.
When the Russians invaded Afghanistan, you remember what happened when we invaded Afghanistan? You remember what happened when we invaded Iraq? You remember what happened when the Israelis invaded southern Lebanon? You want to stay out of these places. In fact, if you really want to wreck Russia, what you should do is encourage it to try and conquer Ukraine. Putin, again, is much too smart to do that. What Putin is doing...
So he's talking a lot of absolutes, already wrong 2 times.
He's basically in the process of wrecking Ukraine, and he's telling the West in very simple terms, you have 2 choices. You either back off, right, and we go back to the status quo ante before February 22nd, 2014, where Ukraine is a buffer state, or you continue to play these games where you try and take Ukraine and make it a Western bastion on our doorstep, in which case we'll wreck the country. And they are, of course, now in the process of wrecking it.
One thing I never get about this argument that NATO is the reason behind this Russian attack because they wanted to, because they're building up on the Russian border, they want to involve Ukraine. Isn't the ground of democratic free thinking that a country like Ukraine can decide itself what it wants to do? Isn't that like a really progressive thought? That if a majority of Ukrainians votes for a party that wants to get closer to the EU and NATO, that kinda is their right to do that? And only a fascist will be against that? Okay. Yeah, first of all, this video is very old, yeah.
Keep this conflict going for as long as they have to. That's the basic game here. Again, 2 steps. 1, took Crimea. No way they're going to ever let Crimea become a NATO base. And remember, the name of the game here is to make Ukraine part of NATO. Not happening. And they're not getting Crimea. We've taken Crimea, we're keeping it. Number 1. And number 2, you want a frozen conflict or you want to wreck Ukraine so that it can't become part of the West. Question number 2 here is what motivates this? What motivates this is that Russia's a great power and it has absolutely no interest in allowing the United States and its allies to take a big piece of real estate of great strategic importance on its western border and incorporate it into the West. This should be hardly surprising to the United States of America. As all of you know, we have a Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine basically says that the Western Hemisphere is our backyard, and nobody from a distant region is allowed to move military forces into the Western Hemisphere. I can tell from looking at the audience that most of you are old enough to remember the Cuban Missile Crisis like I am. You remember how we went stark raving crazy at the idea of the Soviets putting military forces in Cuba? This is unacceptable. Nobody puts military forces in the Western Hemisphere. That's what the
But, Ufka, I don't understand what you're sending me here. I'm asking you what's fascist about Ukraine, and you're sending me a video about this professor talking about why Russia doesn't like what NATO's doing. Where's the relation to the fascism? Like this is the second time you're totally taking my question and you go somewhere else.
Forming a military alliance with Canada and Mexico and moving Chinese military forces onto Canadian and Mexican soil, and us just standing there and saying, this is no problem. We're all 21st century people, and worrying about Chinese forces there is what 19th century.
I think we're done here now. Again, like, am I wrong here? Am I not fair to Ufka? We were talking about Vladimir Putin is protecting fascism in Ukraine, and you're sending me, like, what?
Guards tank regiment
like,
on Godianch by the 4th Guard.
And that's always the point with, I'm sorry, idiots like you. The best way to fight people like you, idiots everywhere in the world, Corona deniers, Holocaust deniers, pro-Russian military people, just let them talk themselves. Don't talk shit about them. Don't be mad at them. Just ask them questions and watch them destroy themselves. It's so easy nowadays when you know that you are on the right side. There are certain things where you can't debate much. Like, I don't know, for example, let's bring back fascism. Let's bring back the Third Reich. The Holocaust never happened. You kind of, I don't know, you probably might be wrong. And you just let them fucking talk, man.
Guards Tank Division and on Krowoyri by the 7th Guards Mountain Air Assault Division were also successful.
The professor's kind of right, though. Again, my argument stands. Is Ukraine making the decision to get closer to NATO? Everyone consensual. A reason to have an unjustified attack war against Ukraine leading to the deaths of civilians? That's the question in the room.
Repelled.
I will guess no is the answer.
The Ukrainian situation around Mariupol continued to deteriorate as the Russian forces and Donetsk separatists moved into...
Yeah, this professor has been explaining the geopolitics of this entire thing. Fully agree, 100%. But it doesn't justify the actions of Russia. The fact that Finland and Sweden are trying to join NATO disproves that Putin is demanding Ukraine to stop expansion. Yeah, like, what the fuck?
Two portions of the eastern part of the city, along with taking Volnovakha. The infamous tank column northwest of Kyiv by now had dispersed and redeployed elsewhere. The most important event of the 13th to 16th of March was the ballistic strike at the Yavoriv training center near Lviv, as the Russian defense minister...
That's the attack on the Foreign Legion. If you would have gone to Ukraine, you would have been... There's a chance you would have been trained there.
...claimed that 180 mercenaries were killed in this strike on the base, where training of foreign volunteers was conducted. By these dates, it had become quite clear that Russia...
Could you imagine you live in eastern Poland, man, and a rocket just some kilometers away has dropped, man?
...in all directions, and was unable to conduct any major offensive operations anywhere but Donbass. While the Russians made some gains in Izium and pushed around Rubizhne, the Ukrainian offensive towards Kherson pushed the 20th Guards Motor Rifle Division and reached the town of Posad-Pokrovske. The Ukrainians also broke the encirclement of Okhtyrka. On the 19th to 20th of March...
The most realistic thing for this war is that Putin completed the focus and didn't know it declares a war.
Reports of Russian troops digging trenches and deploying minefields around Kyiv indicate that the Russians had given up on offensive operations to take the capital and prepared for a defensive war. On March 21st to 24th, Ukraine gained ground around Kyiv by counterattacking towards Bucha, Vozol, Moshchun, Makariv and Irpin, while Russia made progress in Izium and Mariupol. On the 25th to 29th of March, Ukraine capitalized on the low morale and poor supply of the Russian army and made considerable progress on several fronts. The Ukrainian army solidified its successes on the Kyiv front by pushing back the 37th Separate Motor Rifle Brigade and the 31st Guards Air Assault Brigade from Irpin.
Thank you for 3 years, mate.
And the 90th Tank Division further away from Bavaria.
Check the comment section of this video, one sec. Oh, here we go, man. It's quite terrifying that we see war in progress videos among historic battles. We have no clue if this war is near. Yeah, that's a good comment. I think we all feel a pervading sense that the events of today will echo loudly through the pages of future history. Seeing the conflict broken down by kings... These are all good comments. When it comes to tallying ship loss, it's better to do it in naval tons. Well, these are all kind of normal comments. What are you talking about? You went to the dock section and below? I've watched so many different versions of this Wars documentaries, and I'm honestly amazed at the great work this page has. These are all very normal comments. You sort by new. Oh, why would you do that? Like, why would you read that shit? Thank you for this amazing video. Why would you read? No, let's not even read this. This is like reacting to Grisha videos. You're just looking at a bunch of people that should go to therapy. That's not really worth it for a normal person, right? Like,
reclaimed Lukyanivka. In the Sumy-Kharkiv axis, the 93rd Brigade
go there,
took
man.
back Trostianets,
No one can run
Boromia,
there.
and Malarahan, and ended the encirclement of the city
Nice.
of Sumy, forcing the 27th Guards Motor Rifle Brigade to withdraw to Russia for presumed redeployment in
yeah,
Donbass,
to redeploy their fucking washing machines they stole for their fucking moms.
where Russia still had a capability to launch a successful offensive operation and made some gains around Izium and Severodonetsk, along with capturing more of Mariupol, putting the
Can't make
Ukrainian
this shit
defense
up, man.
of the
Not even
city
South Park
in
would
an
have made this
even
shit
more
up.
desperate situation. On the southern front, the Russian offensive had completely stalled as well. On the 30th of March, reports of
These were
withdrawal
Nazi
of
washing
several
machines.
Russian units from the Kiev axis started to emerge.
Nice. I'm so
whether
rooting
due
for
to
them,
heavy
man.
losses
Holy shit.
or as part of a campaign to de-escalate military operations around Kiev. Along with that, redeployment of Russian units, such as the elements of the 30th CAA and the 1st Guards Tank Army to Belgorod for replenishment, to presumably later send them to the Donbass front, continued. During the next couple of days, we witnessed several instances of fighting on the northern front with Ukraine.
Well, there's a guy. A big issue could have been maybe confirmation bias or certain bias that Vladimir Putin, when you're a dictator, right? The people around you are big yaysayers. They tell you everything you want to hear, and there's a big chance, I don't fucking know, that Putin thought this would be easy peasy, man, because the people around him just tell him everything he wants to hear. Because if they don't and they touch their fucking boxer short, they're gonna have a fucking stroke, man.
Ukrainian success, and then a complete withdrawal of Russian units from Kyiv and Chernihiv oblasts. The 35th, 36th, and 41st CAAs made an orderly withdrawal towards Belarus.
I read today, I don't know, you never know if it's true. I read today that Putin just took direct control of the units. He's now the highest rank in that invasion. He can make the biggest decisions.
While
I read
reports
that
of the
today.
redeployment of the 90th Tank Division and 2nd Guards Motor Rifle Division to the Donbass front emerged. On April
Micromanager.
2nd, the
I need more
Ukrainian
co-ops.
Defense Ministry stated that Ukraine was now
He did the
controlling
Hitler
all
move.
of the Kyiv Oblast. On April 4th, the governor of Zhytomyr Oblast
Good job,
also
man. That they
stated
took Kyiv
the
back like
region
this, man. I
now
was so happy.
completely under Ukrainian control. By April 5th, there were no Russian troops left.
Oh, I'm
in
gonna
Chernihiv.
get some very interesting fucking Discord messages after that from a bunch of 16-year-old white kids that are way too lost on the internet.
Kyiv Oblast either. Ukraine prevailed on the northern front and the Battle of Kyiv against all odds.
Oh, thank
But
you so much,
Russian loss
Nisin.
came at a very
Thank
high
you.
price for the Ukrainian military, infrastructure, and particularly the civilian population. As the Ukrainian army reclaimed Bucha, it witnessed horrific scenes of hundreds of civilians lying
Bruh,
dead
these
on its
cunts,
streets.
Alter.
Satellite
Human
images
garbage, these
taken
people,
on the
man, that
days
did that.
when the Russian army still controlled this town.
Stuff like this, and I know, dude, even the West did a lot of bad stuff, but no one says that's good. Okay, no one says that. From Guantanamo Bay to Iraq and stuff, 100%. And I always pray, I hope that there is justification after death. That when you die, you will be judged on your actions, man. You kind of hope that people that are like this on both sides will face consequences, right? You just pray, man. Most evil fuckers in the world.
Prove beyond reasonable doubt that this massacre was indeed committed by Russia.
Proof beyond reasonable doubt. Maybe there's an American professor telling us something else, Ufka, huh?
Ukraine also staged counterattacks in Zaporizhia and Kherson oblasts.
Fucking scum of the
On the
earth.
31st of March, they liberated Melanivka, Vesela, Zelenyi and other towns in the Zaporizhia Oblast, along with several towns and settlements in the Kherson Oblast, including Novovoronstovka on the 1st to 2nd of April. But around the same dates,
Actors. Oh god, there's probably people that think like this.
Russia continued very slow but steady progress in Donbass, as they claimed to capture Zolota Niva in the Donetsk Oblast and Zhytlivka in the Luhansk Oblast. On the 1st of April, Ukraine admitted that Russia was able to capture Izium after days of heavy fighting. But arguably, the most important event of this day was the Ukrainian strike on a fuel storage depot in the Russian city of...
I don't pay much attention anymore because it's just making you sad. I heard news that inside Russia there's rebellion forces that like destroy fuel depots and ammunition storages. Like it's Russians attacking Russia because they're against the war or something. Is that true? Is there proof for that, or like a white rose movement in a way? Yeah. There are videos about that.
Belgorod, which was the first incident of spillover of the war in Ukraine
Pussy riot
to
going
Russian
ham, dude.
territory.
Collab
On
government
April 4th,
finished.
Reports of the advance of the Russian forces from the Kharkiv axis towards Slavyansk started emerging. According to various military experts,
Thank the fucking for the 7 finger man.
the capture of Slavyansk created options to link up with the Russian units fighting in Rubizhne or advancing towards Holivka, both of which carried a potential risk of encirclement for the Ukrainian units on the Donbass front. By the 5th of April,
There's a Russian legion fighting for Ukraine. They have their own Russian flag. There's some good Russians after all. In the military, dude. Obviously, I don't think I have to even say, bro, this is nothing against the Russian people. They're just humans that want to live. It's not their fault. A lot of them are just getting indoctrinated. For decades, they get indoctrinated. It's not their fault, man. You know, you have people like Grisha's mom that says Zelensky is a cokehead. But the moment little Grisha boy gets called on the fucking front line and doesn't come home, then people wake up, you know? That's kind of when people wake the fuck up. But it's not their fault. It's not their fault. Indoctrination for decades. And it's very important to not judge the Russian public over this, man. Like, you see videos where they attack a Russian restaurant in America, like, what, Alter? Like, you complete, like, are you handicapped or something? Like, are you okay? Like, man.
elements of the 1st Guards Tank Army, including elements of the 2nd GMRD, 4th GTD, 47th GTD, the 106th GAD, the 144th MRD, and the
Said how
3rd
Russia's never
MRD
experienced true democracy. I listened to a comedy podcast and they said Russia is determined to always be fucked by some tyranny, man. And that's so sad, man. Like, you know, imagine just a nice, corrupt, democratic government like we have it, right? We and the Russians, we could exchange students, we could travel to each other, just have fun, trade, be mad at the elite together. Russian brothers, man. I wish
and
we
we
could
can
be friends.
expect
How
most of
much
the
money
Russian
have you made from your lawsuits today? Also, when will you replay Enderall for the Direwolf?
Shut the
Hash
fuck up,
bad
Luca.
joke.
Look, that shit as Direwolf, man.
offensive
Yeah, thanks to the
operations
nation for
to
the
be
lawsuits. Thank
conducted
you.
along the Donets River, which the Ukrainian
Don't insult handicapped people like me. I don't want to insult you, okay? I just feel like if you attack a Russian restaurant because they're Russian and nothing else indicated it, you probably might have too many chromosomes or something.
25th Airborne Brigade and the 81st Air Assault Brigade will try to defend. The presidential aide, Arestovich, noted in his interview that the Ukrainian army faces 8-1 numerical disadvantage on this
man.
axis.
Fuck.
On the 6th of April, it was confirmed
They're
that
legit
the
orcs,
Russian
man.
army completed its withdrawal from the Sumy Oblast too. These
Oh, it's a very... Dude, I'm going to predict something. TommyKay prediction. TommyKay prediction. Within the next months, Russia will claim that Ukrainian forces have stepped over into Russian territory and will use it as a justification to use more power against Ukraine, even though Ukraine never done it. Watch it. 3 months maximum. It's gonna happen. You watch that shit, man. Because that's what fascists do. They lie, lie,
forces
lie.
were to be redeployed in Donbass too. Lastly, the situation of the Ukrainian units in Mariupol was getting increasingly more desperate. According to British intelligence, by April 7th, Russia already controlled 76% of the city. But it is also reported that the Russian units participating in the siege of Mariupol are suffering heavy losses amid fierce resistance by the Azov battalion and units of the regular
Oh, that's the Azov people? That's the people everybody is so triggered about, right? With the bad symbols. Wait, the British have intelligence?
Ukrainian army. In the run-up to and on the first few days of the war, almost everyone expected a quick Russian victory and the collapse of the Ukrainian army. It was only a question of when. But the Ukrainian army has defied the odds by standing tall and, more recently, prevailing in the Battle of Kyiv and reclaiming some of the lost territories in other regions. Despite the overwhelming advantage in firepower, bad planning by the Russian command manifested in an inability
Very lucky,
to
man,
conduct major offensive operations
for Ukraine.
in the
That Russia was so
coordination
fucking
of a
dumb.
large number of units and different branches
He's just
of the
right an urban
military.
expert.
Poor logistical preparation was demonstrated by images of incapacitated military vehicles due to lack of fuel, and insufficient food supplies proved by the Russian looting of civilian stores. Low morale, the clear indicator of which
All actors,
is scores of Russian servicemen, particularly conscripts, surrendering to Ukrainians, since they don't really understand what they're fighting for and are just completely unprepared for the brutality of war. Inability to ensure air domination, despite...
Isn't that the saddest thing on earth? Like, Russia's using conscripts, which means you're probably below 20 years old, below 21. Vladimir Putin, man, wants to show the West sends fucking children to a war. Fucking dying, shitting their pants, asking for their moms. It's the fucking saddest thing on earth, man. These people have done nothing wrong. It's just so sad. And then you have all these idiots, man, that are way too deep in their little fake world, that they have no more empathy to understand this shit, man.
The huge numerical advantage in military aircraft has made the Russian war effort in Ukraine go horribly wrong. Around Kharkiv and the south of Ukraine, the Russians have been pushed back.
More Russian ladies for us. Oh, dude! That was a dark one. More Russian ladies for... Oh my god. Luca, bro. Jeez, man. Woo.
As well. The only axis where Russians and pro-Russian separatists can hope to gain any considerable success is the southeastern front. The Russian General Staff has stated in late March that its main focus is on the so-called liberation.
Yeah, they couldn't fucking
After
take
2
it, so
years,
now
my
they just want to take
TommyKay
the
sub
east.
has paid off, and I got
Fucking
myself
Muppets.
a girl.
Hey,
To the
Nintendo and
non-subs that
Funky.
doubt it, I am an example of Tommy's magic.
Thank you for $20, Blake. After 2 years of my sub, it has paid off, and I got a girl. You fucking did that, man. I just showed the door. You put the penis through the hole. The door hole. The door hole. Jesus Christ. Thank you for the 20, man. Thank you.
Ukrainian-controlled territories of Luhansk and Donetsk oblasts, since it remains the only front where the Russians can realistically hope for success. Russia continues to employ the tactic of shelling cities, including civilian areas, causing the death of 1,611 civilians, according to the UN. Mariupol, Kharkiv, Sumy and other cities have been heavily damaged. Millions of Ukrainians have fled their country. Both sides have suffered heavy losses, but the Ukrainians have inflicted way more damage on the Russians than was expected.
Good fucking job, man.
By April 7th,
Good
Oryx
fucking
military
job.
analysis.
That's where I'm not centrist. That's where I'm not in the middle. That's where I shit on everyone against it, man. All hail to Ukraine, man. And all the best to these fuckers, man. I wish them all the best.
Blog visually confirmed Russian losses at 448
If you don't like it, you can
or
get on your
abandoned
knees, man.
tanks, 750
To suck it,
armored
to not
vehicles,
anything else.
20 fighter jets, 32 helicopters, and 3 navy ships, against Ukrainian losses of 95 tanks, under 200 armored vehicles,
Look at that shit, huh?
18 aircraft and helicopters, and 15 ships.
Good job.
According to the NATO estimates of the 29th of March, 7,000 to 15,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in Ukraine. The US sources reported on the 9th of March that 2,000 to 4,000 Ukrainian soldiers were killed during the invasion. Soon, we will summarize the second month of this conflict, which proved to be not the short, victorious war.
In east of Estland, we're running out of apartments. The Russians are moving in.
Vladimir Putin hoped for, but a war of attrition that could change the fate of the entire region. So make sure you are subscribed and have pressed the bell button to
So you can
it.
see how much more
Please
people are
consider
dying,
liking,
man.
commenting, and
Fucking crazy, man. Crazy, crazy, crazy shit. Just crazy. I think the utmost important thing that everyone should take from this video... Oh yeah, guys, send me more links, send me more links. Oh, get them to me, bro. I think the utmost important thing is to understand... This is truly, man, no jokes. The most important thing in this whole conflict that our generation should learn from that, and your younger generation, is how fucking blessed we are, man. You and me were just... You have to do your homework, man, and you have to take the dog out, and sometimes... You gotta maybe bring the trash down, but most of the time you can do whatever the fuck you want, man. These people are fighting for their fucking lives, man. And that really shows that we are all very, very lucky, man. We're all very lucky people. I think that's the main thing to learn from that. We gotta stay fucking humble. Did you just send me a link for Rogue Arenas in World of Warcraft, Aldo?